I was curious about exploring how time and distance create the space to tap into memory and personal mythology. So, we're seeing that there are these seismic shifts happening in the environment that are here and have not yet arrived in its full capacity, depending on where you are in the world. And in that gap between the expectation and something arriving, we're beginning to imagine how we live and how we might be changed by climate change. And so, in outside, you'll see a family grappling with the intimate mythologies of departing. They're leaving their hometown, and some are remaining in place and dealing with that place. So, I'm interested in that gap and how we are tapping into memory and how we're telling stories as we are anticipating the worst of something to come. And in the space where people have left, how do we memorialize people? How do we build something from that? And the story itself was largely inspired from a few documentaries I watched on the campfire that was in Paradise, California. Um, Both the stories from individuals who had survived that experience and the way they said it affected their memory, and also the images afterwards. While they're like very devastating, they're also incredibly poetic. So started making me think, what do we do with the things that are left behind, and how are those objects then transported into storytelling? For me, my approach to device theater is akin to collage or pastiche. So, from an idea or like a soft outline of an image, I begin defining the story that is calling to be brought to life through found text, music, a lexicon of gestures, visual art, and that could be painting, drawing, and cinema. And so, a score or a script kind of comes alive, and by pushing these things together and also in a communication with artists from the very beginning of the process, um, we see this play come to life in a more traditional sense, I suppose. So you might end up with a script or not. You may see images come to life that you wouldn't otherwise find in a more traditional practice. And then what I really love about device theater is that it allows you to be in some kind of historical lineage with other artists. So you're drawing upon other female directors or dancers or other visual artists, and so that you feel like you're a part of a history and speaking similar vocabularies through that process as well. So the project started at Culture Lab it presented actually last August at Culture Lab after a 4 month residency where we were provided like unlimited space ultimately. And there was no script. And so, really, the cast and I were investigating certain themes and images that were coming to life for me, and building a world around that, and really trying new things that I hadn't tried as an artist before. So, how do you speak to a composer, and what are the things that they need to know as you're developing a story that will place them in the same universe as you? And puppetry also, like, how does the wolf want to exist? There's a wolf in this play. Um, so we were trying out a lot of that. I think being in a traditional space lends itself to a lot of the technology that is there. And so we were able to work with projection in new ways and sound and lighting. I think what's really exciting about this experience is that there were elements of the original visual research that are seeping into the production in ways it wasn't possible before, just by the nature of being in open air, being set against this landscape that's so beautiful. Um, you know, it is not lost on me that Edith Wharton is such a huge champion, and the Mount is a huge champion of women's work. So feeling a little bit more tied into that. Just ethos and atmosphere has hugely impacted the project. Now we do have a script, and it has advanced quite a bit. And it'll be really interesting to see how we're able to really magnify the landscape of the Mount and make an audience see the landscape in ways that are familiar and unfamiliar to them. So working with the designer and thinking about how is a way that you highlight something that's make a portrait of a tree and draw a spectator's eye to that. Um, we won't have the same sound capability outside. So we'll have to think of new ways to produce sound and use actors to do that. Um, and then I think the biggest change is really the audience at the Culture Lab was a huge part of giving us feedback as a traditional audience member and then speaking to us afterwards. But here, the audience is going to be deeply entangled in the world of the play. So they'll be moving from place to place in the Mount. And so just by that, adding that element into the world and into the story, we're finding new ways to interact, personalize, and really try to place the audience right in the heart of the story with this family at this particular moment experiencing climate in this way. I'm so excited to see everyone there and to make my Berkshire debut as a director. And just really thrilled to have this partnership with the Mount and to be engaging local artists and artists that I'd worked with in the past and see how those two worlds collide. So can't wait to see you there. Don't miss it, August 18th at the Mount, 4 to 7 p.m.